what world are we living in where we're actually potentially about to applaud Jim Benning? I don't like this world right now. We're going to give you your own segment, I think, tonight, Brady.
Betting Bros, reunite.
Betting Bros Corner with Braden Ursel, Bob's son, in case you didn't know. Welcome to the PP1 podcast. This is going to be a humdinger of a night. Not the guy that just swam in the 100-meter freestyle in the Olympics, but in fact, day one of free agency isn't quite at a close. For all we know, they could announce somebody by the time the show's over. But until then, you're going to hang out with us because we're awesome. Boys, welcome to the show 101. We're the Dalmatian episode because that's the only time I'll ever be able to say that. So we're at the... I nicknamed it Shotgun Jim, so we'll see what happens there. Because Jim Benning has been out for blood today, as well as a few other things like, random good signings, random signings, and of course the random bad signing, which isn't quite random anymore. But first and foremost, how's everybody doing? Brady out in the dungeon. What's going on?
Oh man, excited to be here. Jet Black Jim living his best life. He's absolutely killing it. Cigar in the mouth, sunglasses on. It's his time to shine.
Do you think he dyes the eyebrows too?
It looks like it.
You should. You have to commit, right?
Yeah, it's all in or not at all.
Word to the wise, don't do
Mrs.
that.
Benning must really like it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, don't do that even if it is blonde. Just saying, maybe you're a late teens boy and you decide that, hey, I'm going to bleach my hair, goatee, sideburns, and maybe my eyebrows. Don't do it. Just saying. Kids, take it from me. You're going to look like an idiot. Ted, how are you doing?
Good. Not bad. Good. It's hot out here.
Smoky,
the
hey?
smoke has come in. Yeah, it's
pungent.
It's a lot. Like we're trying not to even go outside right now. Like it's that bad. So masks, I think, are up and running tonight at midnight in the central Okanagan. So maybe wearing a mask will help with the smoke. I'm not sure. I'm trying to be positive about this. But,
we had a good run for 15 days. Hey,
how did that happen? Eh, like I'm in Vancouver. We weren't allowed to leave the region for forever.
Yeah,
and now it's you guys. Everyone, it's weird because I just came back to Kelowna over the weekend, and I was surprised when I showed up because here in Vancouver, I would say 95% of people are still wearing masks. Come into Kelowna,
completely
5%, maybe.
Maybe 5%. And it was like that too. It was like as soon as they said masks off, as long as you're vaccinated, apparently everybody was vaccinated because nobody's wearing masks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm 2 weeks.
There's a couple of factors like where our neighbors, to the east, Alberta, they have some not great numbers going on.
Oh, it is.
Oh, Ted, I think you accidentally muted yourself.
It's the wild, wild west out in Alberta now. Like you got COVID, you don't need to quarantine. There you go.
I'm looking outside my window right now, and there is 5 vehicles parked across the street, and every one of them has a red plate. Just saying. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but
no, I don't like it.
Probably what it means is obviously like Kelowna is a vacation mecca, right? So everybody's here from Kelowna, plus everybody's here from out of town, plus everybody's here from next province over. So it's probably not a good mix when you're about to kick off a masks off, right?
It wasn't a good idea, and also out in Alberta, apparently, like I said, you had tuned out for a second on your mic, but they just announced that if you get COVID in Alberta, you don't need to quarantine.
Really?
There you go.
Wow.
So there may be more stats to that, and maybe that's part of the quote, but so far what I've read is that's it. So it is what it is, and there may be some stuff to get into that. First and foremost, let's get into the quick stuff, and then we got a lot to talk about. Thank you everybody for tuning in to our 100th episode. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. I think a big success. We obviously want to thank our partners, Summer Skates. We want to thank Manta Sleep. They gave us the mask to give away. Go check out our link. We'll post it later in the show. Beyond the Green for all their cool stuff. They gave us all the golf stuff. I haven't sent everything out, so chill out. It's been a very busy week.
Just relax.
It's been a busy week.
I will never not sent you the goods.
Exactly. It's free, so you don't have to pay for anything. So just trust me. I will get it to you. So yeah, all that was great. Thanks for obviously being on the Blundell Network. We had great numbers for that episode. So it's exciting. Things are building here. Clearly, it was Brady's big return that everybody wanted to tune into. So I mean, obviously. So we do thank you for now. I don't know if we're gonna are we gonna plateau on a high number now, or do we need to do something else?
I don't know. Right off the bat, we should probably. Looks like we got Average Joe and Doug Gross just joined us too. So welcome, guys.
Yeah. So you know what?
Come on down, take a bow.
Yeah.
Hey. So let's get into it. Before free agency, Jim Benning did what we all thought was the unthinkable. He got rid of all the contracts that we thought you could not get rid of in one quick swoop.
I don't even think we can say one foul swoop.
How could you? How did that happen? I didn't think we could even move Eriksson, let alone another $6 million on top of that. Just one, right? Jet Black Jim, man, Jet Black Jim.
And then
it was the corpse of Jay Beagle, the ghost of Louis Eriksson, and used to be good at talking trash Roussel. Somehow I moved all three of those terrible contracts. But I mean, there is some other stuff going the other way, and then some other stuff coming back too.
It did cost a little bit. Brady, how did you feel about knowing that whole trade? How did you feel? And I guess now looking back at the draft, how did you feel about Benning giving up the first?
I mean, I think the first, you have to give it up in this trade, obviously. But the first, I think, it doesn't actually get you Oliver Ekman-Larsson. It actually gets you that Connor Garland contract, which is now a 5-year deal at $4.95. So I think that's actually the part of the deal that you want to focus on. He can be a good 25-goal guy for us playing on an offensive line.
Yeah.
But I mean, all in all, I think you can't really be mad about this deal. You basically moved $12 million of dead weight for $12 million worth of actual talent. I know Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he's had a couple bad seasons, but I mean, he was also playing on a team that didn't exactly want him. He wasn't happy there. Maybe a change of scenery coming to Vancouver could be good for him. I still think he's got a lot left in the tank. He doesn't have to be the number one guy, but it'd be awesome if he could be. Take a little, defensive pressure off of Hughes. But I mean, all in all, the trade, I'm happy about it. I mean, obviously right now we can't really truly evaluate it until we see them on the ice and see kind of what happens down the road. But I mean, Benning's going all in. We knew that was going to happen. And I'm honestly really, really pumped about that trade. I'm okay giving up the first. I mean, the second kind of sucks. I didn't think we had to give up the second, but the seventh is no big deal either. I'm just happy. I'm happy they got that to work. And I think the Canucks won that trade. So, I mean, what are your thoughts, guys?
Ted, I was just going to say, did Benning shoot a shot in this last couple days?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not? I think it's the biggest trade of the offseason so far, right? How can you not?
Oh, most definitely.
How can you not shoot your shot if that's whether it pans out for you or not? You shot your shot, right? I mean, He walked up to the hot girl in the bar and he asked her out. Fine, can I buy you a drink? Where do we go from here?
Turns out he asked 10 people before her, but
we won't know until next year if she throws her drink in his face or not.
That's true.
I think. I mean, obviously, I'm happy. I'm so happy that those three bums are off the roster. I'm going to call them bums, guys. I'm sorry, but they haven't really done a whole lot for us. Roussel was good in that.
They're total
year.
Guys.
Yeah, they are guys.
They were total guys. They've been guys since they got here. I think of those three players, I think Roussel was probably the most valuable for a period of time.
Yep.
For a period of time. So I do think that Ekman-Larsson contract is one of the worst contracts in the NHL. It's a thing here. I feel like you have to be able to separate the player from the contract. And if we're talking about just the player, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I really like him. I think he's good. I think he hasn't played up to his potential the last couple of years. It's been a bad probably 3 years for him overall, playing in a terrible team, playing probably more minutes than he should be playing. I do always go back to that factor of if you're paying a guy $8 million, or say Braden Holtby, if you're paying him 4.2, he should be your number one guy or close to it, right? So I'll want him to perform up to those expectations. I mean, he's taking on his contract alone eats about 9% of the entire salary for the year, 9% on a roster with 22, 23 players is a big deal. It's a big chunk, right? So
Mhm.
that's not including the fact that we still have to, re-up Petey, we still have to re-up Hughes, we still have to re-up Dickinson. So if we're looking specifically at this trade, Brady, you're right. I think we didn't have to give up that second round pick. I think there's probably a player we could have moved there. I think we probably could have retained. They could have had them retain maybe just a little bit more of Ekman Larsson's salary. I mean, it's a long haul, right? We're
It was a
taking it on
big
for 5
ask,
years.
That's
It is a big ask. So 5 years, right? Which is apparently the reason they didn't want to do it, take on more salary, because hey, well, this is 5 years we have to take this on for. Well, it's 5 years that the player is going to be here for. So
Yeah.
6 years.
6 years, sorry. So it's kind of a catch-22, right? But I think for a short-term fix, the roster is better, which is what we all want. That's clear. The best player in this trade, I totally agree with you. The best player in this trade is Connor Garland.
Oh, for sure.
It's a no-brainer.
Mhm.
Everybody's talking about Larson. Garland is the player in this deal that everybody should be focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a wonderful, because I think you have to eat some shit to get rid of some shit. This is
Hey.
a wonderful.
If we're going to talk about that, I'm your guy.
This is a wonderful short-term solution. That being said, I am fearful for where this squad's going to be year 2, year 3, year 4 down the road, and especially at the end of this contract. I don't want to walk into some sort of cap recapture. I don't think it's going to get there, but it's not going to be great at $8 million. It just can't be. We know that. We're not idiots, right?
Yeah.
So that would be my concern with the whole thing. I think if we're giving this whole trade a grade, I almost can't grade it a win or a loss right now. I have to grade it incomplete, because the way that this trade breaks down doesn't allow the roster to accumulate its total value for where we're going to sit cap wise.
Right. So that massive move happens, and I mean, no one believed it, because honestly, it was like Raymond Ballard in a second actually happened. And it actually came to fruition. And because those were all just absolute anchor contracts. They were guys that weren't contributing. The talk about Jay Beagle when we could have had Nick Dowd, Louis Eriksson, at the start of it, we all thought we're going to probably get a 20 to 30 goal scorer. That obviously didn't pan out. And then Roussel obviously started great and really fizzled out. So all those things became just absolute, liabilities. And somehow Jim was able to, he started the fire, but he found like the biggest fire extinguisher he could in the same area. He's like, I can still put this fire out. And then he goes and the buyouts of Virtanen and Holtby. I mean, it sucks when you have to buy out any player, but I think
Especially when the contracts are only 9 months old.
Yeah, hey,
Not a good look, is it?
You're gonna, and this is one of those, like, you got to take the good with the bad if there is any good in there. And then he gets that same pick back for Nate Schmidt after he didn't want to leave, and all of a sudden he goes into free agency with a little bit of swagger, right? So
He was swinging big dick, I think. Yeah,
he was like this guy's like this guy's ready. He's ready to play.
Confidence was there.
He's full on Cialis mode.
Well, he went from one of the most capped out teams to clearing up to under the cap floor. He moved up to, we had almost $30 million to spend. We had the 9th most amount of dollars going into free agency, and we spent it on 15 players already, with 4 more to sign still.
And then he runs and guns to start the day. Ted, can you rapid fire and make it sound exciting?
I don't know if you can call it that he secured the most cap space, because it doesn't account for players currently on the roster and Hughes and Pettersson and Dickinson. So I know that a lot of space was freed, and he's gone out and made a lot of signings.
He had a good starting number.
Yeah, but I don't think that the number is the true number of how much space is actually made available because of those. Because it's not like we're going to walk away from those 3 important players, right? Dickinson, Hughes, Pettersson. So
no,
I get what you're saying about the total number, but it's not really the true number, is it?
No, but I think it's just the optics of it, right? Like, he actually got himself into position where, on paper, for that very brief time, Jim Benning was in the good. He was in the green at that point, past the black. He's in the green. And then he goes and he goes and gets Halak. Pretty awesome signing as a backup
goal. That's a really good signing.
Goes and, Brandon Sutter. Ted, you were talking about separating the player from contract. Now Brandon Sutter is $1 million player. How do we view Brandon Sutter? Right?
We like that.
It's weird to say, but all of a sudden, I don't think we have to get him. But there's
I'm a huge Sutter fan at this point. $1 million. Who doesn't love Sutter for $1 million?
We just talked about this too, didn't we, guys? We were like, let's put him on a 1 year, $1 million prove it deal. Just like just like Rafi Torres did, just like Anson Carter did, right? Let these guys revive their career, prove it, show that you can play in a role, and see what happens next year.
They go after Travis Hamonic, so he's back. They get Luke Shen, who again, he's won 2 cups, so he's I'll get closer to home. So
hey, we need another Kelowna Rocket, right? So
we still need it, and then they go get Devontae Stevens, former Kelowna Rocket as well. So they're pulling in some guys, and then Brad Hunt, Philip Giuseppe. So we're gonna have, I'm sure, a ton of.
This is the guy that makes the pizzas.
They're gonna max out on that ad deal, I'm sure. Nick Patan, didn't Nick Patan play here for like a minute?
Portland.
Yeah.
You're talking about WHL?
Portland.
No. Like, wasn't he a Canuck for a hot second?
No, you're thinking of Brennan Leipzig.
Toronto, I think.
No, not Leipzig. I'm thinking. I swear, Patan. I remember him being in Portland. I just felt like, who am I thinking of? I'll remember at some point. So anyway,
Jeff
a lot of AH. Yeah, exactly. Basically the same guy. They had a lot of AHL signings today, which I thought was kind of good, and then something which was quite curious, as you'd hear in Alice in Wonderland. Do you guys honestly know who Tucker Poolman is? Honestly,
I do. Yeah.
Ted, you may.
Yeah.
I don't.
I remember the name from when we played them in. I think it was at the Bubble when we played Winnipeg. I remember hearing the name then, but I mean, with the contract he got, I was a little curious. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking Hamonic. Okay, Hamonic is exactly what I predicted. I thought 2x3, maybe 3x3. And then Poolman gets a 4-year term for $10 million. And he's a depth guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Andre Padan, I'm sure, was available for much cheaper than that. Good call, Joe.
I think that was the guy that I was trying to remember. Or maybe something like that. But you know what? I guess at the end of the day, like I just looked at before we started here. So he's getting what? 2.5, right?
2.5 over 4 years. Yeah. So
2.5.
He's 32 years old, I think.
Yeah, it's.
No,
I don't.
He's younger than that, isn't he? Only like 29.
It's not a great contract, and he's
sure.
Again. It doesn't sound like he's a phenomenal player, but I mean, it's 2.5. Like, is that worth like burning the city down for?
No, I'm not. I think it's the term that's what has people maybe kind of a little concerned. But I mean, watching, I don't know if you guys caught Benning's press conference today.
Oh,
he made some comparisons to Chris Tanev, and he openly admitted that losing Tanev was a big hurt for the club. So I think in his mind, he's kind of hoping to bring some of that back to the team. I think they really seem to be going for offense on the left-hand side and then defensive defenseman on the right-hand side. I mean, they got 5 right-handed D-men today. It seems like all of them are pretty, other than Hamonic. I mean, Hamonic's probably going to have to step up and play a top 4 a little bit. But other than that, I think the rest of them are just kind of 6 guys. I think you got that 1-2-3 or 1-2-4 with Myers, and then you got a bunch of 6, 7, 8s.
You're going to look at the ice tilting, I think, coming up this season. And I'm trying to be funny here because all the play is going to be leading to one side because they don't want to get exposed on the other side of defense. Like, wow, everything's like kind of tilted on that side. We can't go the other way. We will get burnt every time.
Tucker Poolman is getting paid 2.5 per because he's a right-handed physical, theoretically defensive defenseman.
Do you know what he's? Sorry, do you know, is he physical? Do you know if he lays the body out quite a bit?
He's physical and he's a bigger guy. Like, I think he's like 6'2", 205 or something like that. But I mean, and I know that not everybody is an analytics person, but he played mostly third pairing in Winnipeg and mostly got shit kicked. I mean, I know that he was with Morrissey, and Morrissey had his struggles as a sort of puck moving defenseman and was a little weak, and his numbers were better without Morrissey than with Morrissey. But he still is not that good from where he should be as like what you're considering as a defensive defenseman. You should be able to rely on putting a guy out like that against, second and third lines, use him against a first line, probably a high-end penalty killer. And he hasn't really proven over the course of his year to be any of those things. Now he is 28 years old. I just had a look here.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's sort of concerning about having to pay a guy that much is the fact that he's actually spent the last couple of years being hurt or injured too. So there's an injury history there. There is a lack of point production. This guy is more of an offensive vacuum than Tanev is. Even we're talking about a single point last year.
Yeah.
So on the whole, Brady, I think you're right. The term sucks. And I know that there's people out there that are saying this is going to be a really movable asset down the road. But why are you signing a guy to a 4-year deal if you're talking about having him as a movable asset? Shouldn't he be part of your future if he's a 4-year deal?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So I do have issue with this signing. This is not a good signing. This is your every year Benning head scratcher. Sometimes we have more in a year than not. But I really do believe, and Benning has to prove it to me now at this point that these are good signings down the road instead of just taking his word for it, because we're talking about 5 guys on this roster. We're talking about Sutter, we're talking about Holtby, and the 3 guys we just moved in that deal. None of them panned out, all of them free agent signings. And this 2.5, and Berchi, might as well add Berchi to that list too. This 2.5 million falls right into that area of that soft role player fill from what we're considering a top 4 or bottom 6 defense or bottom 2 defensemen, or like a bottom 6 forward. And none of them have worked out. And I'm going to just say that this is on that list until he proves otherwise.
Are you guys into soft role playing at all, or?
So do you guys think that
I'm just
that, and we're talking a lot about this depth here. I mean, they went out and grabbed a lot of defensemen. I mean, we haven't even covered them all. There's even the Brady Keeper kid, right? Sick name, by the way. But what would you guys have preferred? Like, I mean, they got pretty much 3, 4, 5 D-men for the money that they traded away with Nate Schmidt. Would you have preferred because they went out and they got that depth? I know Benning's happy about the depth. Would you guys have preferred they maybe would have spent a little bit more money on, say, Hamonic and another bigger name and had less depth? Or are you kind of happy with this depth? Because I know this defense is going to be a problem. Like, I think if you look at it from last year, I don't know if we're better. I don't think we are. I don't think we're worse. So I want to know your guys' opinions on what Benning did there.
I'll quick stab at it. I'm sure, Ted, you've got some stuff too. I look at it. We've all been, whether it's in the draft or free agency signings. Actually, I think Thomas Drance has been big on this. You talk about like lottery tickets, right? They'd get all these signings. They go after all these defensemen. You guys have watched the Canucks long enough. Clearly, it's never a 6 defenseman for an entire year. In fact, it gets closer to like 10 to 12, right? Like, they go through a lot of defensemen, whether it's through the farm team trade, signing, whatever. They're going to need those guys at some point. You're going to see a handful of those guys step in for a game or two. Thankfully, they're in Abbotsford, so you can make a quick judgment like that, right, and bring somebody in. They're going to have some problems on defense, both in the starting 6 as well as, you know, the guys that are going to be filling in. So, yeah, I don't mind them taking a few shots out there. I think getting Hamonic back is a nice little, I'm not going to say what everybody's been saying all day, so it's a nice signing. It's not a type of business that is clean. And do you guys hear that all day? It's a nice, tidy little piece of business. People are getting mad about that. That's the new trigger, I think. But I like the fact that they've gone after all these defensemen. Obviously, Quinn Hughes is yet to sign. It just shows that I think he's maybe he's not exactly, but taking the defense a little bit more seriously, and not ultimately seriously, because he probably would have made a few different signings, but at least he's willing to notice that is an area of weakness, and he's willing to take a chance on a bunch of guys, and hopefully somebody hits on one of those lower deals. And if any one of them does, instant value, right? And, you know, there's going to be guys that are going to miss. Maybe Pullman's an absolute atrocious miss. It's entirely possible. But you know what? I mean, there's guys that happens all the time, whether we know about it to start or not. It's, at least we didn't do what Edmonton did with CC. You know what? Sometimes we're not in the worst position. And this is, I think, one of those times. What do you think, Ted?
I mean, I think there's times during the year where I make fun of Jim, and times during the year where I like things that he's doing, right? This year, and I'll disagree with you, Ryan. I don't think that he's taking the defensive side of things seriously just now. I would say that he's been taking defense seriously for the past 3 years, but it's been, we're going to fix the D with Tyler Myers. We're going to fix the D with Nate Schmidt. Now we're going to fix the D by getting Larson. So I think he's paying attention to the defense. I think he's just hedged his bets in all the wrong places for the first few seasons. Like, I don't think that any of us are big fans of that Myers contract still. You like Brady likes the Myers contract.
I mean, I don't hate it like everybody else does. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I mean, we've been there. We've talked about that. We don't have to go over that anymore.
Yeah. So the Poolman thing is a bit of an issue for me. So if you're asking me, would I rather have gone for less of these guys and one more bigger ticket player like a Hamonic, or I would go the opposite direction. I would probably save the money that I saved on Nate Schmidt and try to hedge my bet on deals like Hamonic last year. That was a great deal, right? That was looking for a guy who's a good pro, who's in a situation where he needs to be here. He's willing to take a little less money. And it's on a shorter term deal. So it doesn't work out. We can turn it around next year or use him as trade bait, right? Yep. I think finding, Luke Shen at the end of last year, that was a great idea. It's a great idea this year. Like, those are good bets to hedge yourself on. Brandon Sutter is another one, $1 million for a guy that we know that can play a role in the bottom six. Those are the deals I think that you should be looking for, rather than signing a guy to term 4 years and betting on a player that hasn't had a history of success and spending a good chunk of change to do so. So yeah, I probably would have looked for cheaper deals. I bet you could have found a player that's comparable or better than Poolman for probably only $1 million or even a league minimum salary.
Yeah, possibly.
I'm curious to know why it was the 4-year term. I mean, especially with all these cheaper, shorter deals.
I totally agree.
It doesn't seem like Poolman's the type of player that could be out there demanding a 3-4 year contract. Like Ryan said, he didn't know who Poolman was until today, pretty much. But like, there must be something there, like, that Benning likes about this guy. But
clearly,
I'd like to hear what I'd like to hear what that is, and I guess maybe we're going to see it next year. But I mean, all in all, I think Benning has realized his mistakes in the past, and you take out that one contract, which honestly, other than the term, it's really not that bad. $2.5 million for a defenseman. Like, I think he's learning. He's got all those cheap deals, and I think he's bringing this team into the right direction now. So.
The concern is that there's $10 million in cap sitting on this decor now for the next 4 years at least. I think that's a concern. I think that's what people are worried about, right? I mean, the whole of the trade with Arizona makes sense, but that's more likely than not going to be an ugly contract down the road.
So,
and I think that's where people have problems.
The only thing that I get, like, the OEL thing, I think we were all a little scared that actually was the guy that eventually we would get, or the Canucks, whatever. But at the same time, it's usable money. Like,
what do you mean?
Well, what was Louis Eriksson doing? He's in the press box. Jay Beagle.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, it's money that we're seeing being used on the ice every single night. And no, maybe he isn't the guy. And yes, that's a lot of money to be paying somebody. At the same time, like, it matters for me, but I would be willing to see if he does bounce back in a new team, in a new environment with no bubble.
Are you talking about Poolman? Because he's got to bounce back too.
No. First OEL. So you've got Poolman definitely needs to bounce back from relative unknown to 6th NHL, 7th NHL defenseman. No, I think OEL. I'm willing to, like, maybe this is my Tyler Myers kind of thing, but I think there is a lot there. At the same time, it's highly possible that it doesn't pan out, and it absolutely could be yet a continuation of what we've been dreading and waiting to get rid of. But at the same time, it's a guy that we're going to see in use. Antoine Roussel, again, wasn't really seeing much, and that was kind of iffy. Like, at least out of this, the Connor Garland thing's great. I think that's an awesome piece of that deal, and I think that had to come back in this whole deal. And it's a decent enough lottery ticket with OEL that I'm willing to give a chance. Again, I don't know if it's that Swedish thing and that the Sedins know more than we do, and maybe there's just something that his give a shit meter is about to rise, or I don't know. But I see it as maybe, it's in that same boat as like a Tyler Myers, I guess. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe I personally have a little bit more hope, and I'm probably entirely wrong, and I'm okay with that if you guys saw my rant today on Twitter. So who cares about L's, people? Get over it.
Well, and the thing about Ekman Larsson too is, like, maybe he has fallen off a bit defensively, but at the same time, he's still a pretty good offensive guy. I mean, he's averaged over a half point per game in his career. He hasn't been terrible offensively in the last couple of years. So, I mean, at least there's that plus. He's going to bring that to his game. And if he can find that defensive side of things, then it's a total win.
I agree with you guys on like wholly that the portions of this roster are better to build around than what was there. And the fact that there's players playing on this roster that are taking up that money that was being taken up before that can actually contribute, that's a huge plus too. So I'm all in on that. I totally get what you guys are saying. I was talking to Ryan, Brandon, I was talking to our guy JR yesterday. I was out for lunch with
Were you
him.
guys on Sea-Doos when this was all happening?
We weren't on Sea-Doos, but I did see that he had some Sea-Doos.
Yeah, he's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing good. So you guys know James, classic conspiracy theorist James, right?
Oh boy. Yeah.
But he did bring up some really good points about where we are now in this regime, right? And we're almost in a third phase, and I'll use that phase thing again because, or maybe even a fourth phase with this management group and how they've run this team over the past, how many years has it been? 7 years now?
So
7 years, right? So most GMs don't get a chance to go through 4 phases, right? But we were in that early phase where it was like, okay, we're going to turn it around and this is not a rebuild. We're going to quickly, reload and go for this thing. And it was like playoffs. And then you miss a bunch of years in a row. And then it was like, okay, we're going to give the Twins one last go. That's where the Erickson signing comes from. That's where all these other signings come from. Then the Twins are on the way out. We find that we have, 2 more studs coming up in PD and Hughes. And then it's like, okay, let's recognize that we actually have 2 players in a small window here. Let's go for it. That was the playoff year, right? And then you realize that you're in cap hell from phases 1 and 2, and you have to do something. And that was the eat it year. And that was last year. It was terrible, right? Now we're at the point where guys like PD and Hughes are about to re-up. And I don't really know how thrilled they are. I mean, we're talking about PD switching from his current agent to Newport.
I think
Newport has had all those guys. He had the Erickson contract. That was one of the worst things in the league that happened. He was super sour about that. The agents weren't happy about that. I don't think it's a great look when you're talking about building your roster off 2 young guys, and they don't appear to be all in, right? Whether you have to sort of read the tea leaves a little bit or not, they don't appear to be all in on this thing. So the team has to then make an about face. The Twins come in, right? They are probably heavily influenced on this OEL deal. OEL is a guy that's likable around the league. He's well respected. He can be a big figurehead in this room. He's showing guys like Hughes and like Pettersson that like, look, we are for real. We're going out and trying to get guys like Garland. We're going out to try to get guys like OEL. Whether it's right or wrong, there is like other things that are in play here that they have to
making the push.
They have to put up and show guys like Pete and Hughes that we are trying to be for real to make this roster something that you can compete with in the future and re-sign.
Well, exactly. I mean, like you're saying, we're in a spot right now with this whole situation the Canucks are in, where your star players are kind of getting to that age where that window is open. And Benning saying he's going to be aggressive. Like, you're definitely not going into this year thinking rebuild. Like, he has to be aggressive and he has to make those moves. So, I mean, as a Canucks fan in that situation, I think all we can do is be happy about what he's done. I think he's done an amazing job. If that's the route he's decided to go, which he has, I think he's done great. And I mean, I think now you're looking at a team where arguably you could even put up the argument that they have maybe the best top 9 in the Pacific Division. And I think on paper, they're looking like maybe that competitive team they were a couple years ago that took Vegas to 7 games. So, I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah. I'm still upset about that. Still, I think that still just rocks me to my core, because I think this team can be in a totally different place had that happen. But I know we can't control that, but it's still. Does it not still kind of gut you?
Of course, it reeks of like.
Sorry to bring that up.
It reeks of being disorganized. But yeah, you're right. It's a completely different thing. Brady, I'll agree with you. I think this is a really good top 9. This is a really good, especially in this very, very, very weak Pacific Division. So This team has a chance to make the playoffs, even though this roster isn't complete. It's still missing parts. We don't know who's going to fill out the bottom half of the D. We don't know who's going to fill out, a couple of important spots on this offense.
Mm-hmm.
those can be filled with AHL players, and it would still be a roster that should be able to compete for a playoff spot this year. In this division, I wouldn't say that about every division in this league, but in this division, it should be, right? Which is sort of
that's where they are.
Which is sort of what we asked for, right? That we've said this before. Just get to the dance, right? Just get to the dance. You never know what can happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've kind of got a lot of that. I think we should probably get into obviously some of the other signings like Cale Makar, like Braden Point, like Alexander Ovechkin. There are some pretty significant contracts that just got signed. Cale Makar, obviously, probably one of the heavy ones.
One we're keeping an eye on there.
That one definitely raises an eyebrow. Braden Point. I mean, it is kind of tough because a guy like Point already has 2 Stanley Cups, and you pay your champions. You pay guys that contribute. But then you look, I mean, even a guy like Ovi, now he's kind of the unicorn. Before we get into the other 2 guys, and then we'll talk about Fleury as well. I know Doug was asking about that. If you were going to bet on a player to, in that late in his career, or sign that kind of contract and contribute and live up to, let's say, 80% of that contract, how many other players, and would you include Ovechkin in it, how many other players would actually fulfill that to at least 80%?
Not obviously not that many.
Like, would you
I'd say a handful. I'd say 5, maybe 10.
Probably
Not even 10. Probably not even 10. Probably 3 to 5 players.
I would say 3, maybe.
Yeah.
Ed, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, we're looking at very, very small numbers, right? I mean, probably a goaltender if you're going to pick one, because those guys have the ability to sort of age gracefully.
Oh, okay. Who would be your goalie? I'm asking actual players.
It's probably Fleury. Like Fleury, I think would be a guy. Like back in those old days, like I wouldn't say old days, but you can always count on having Teemu Selanne put up 45 points.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
Like that's a guy that it doesn't matter how old he is. It doesn't matter what role you put him in. He's gonna clear you 45 points because the guy's in phenomenal shape. He knows where he's supposed to be. He's got a great trigger, and away you go.
Sure.
You know, Yogg's up until just recently was probably that guy. Joe Thornton is probably a guy that you're gonna bet on to put up, 40 plus points and play in a limited role for you. And then there's probably like a couple other D-men that you would use as well. And I think over the years, like guys like Ron Hainsey and Edler would probably be another one that you can expect to earn his money at $3.6 million in LA. Guys like that, guys that aren't depending on the game to be so blow you out of the water physically that they need you to get by. They don't need skating to get by, or they're such a phenomenal skater that at that advanced stage, it doesn't matter. Patrick Barlow comes to mind. It's those types of players that you have to watch, right? Those are the guys that you should be looking for those types of deals.
I just think for that dollar value, like he signed almost a $50 million deal, and he's getting close to 40, and he's still putting up numbers. Like he's still, if he fulfills this contract and averages, I think I saw 33 goals, he breaks Gretzky's record. Now,
it's amazing.
That's still something to be seen. It may or may not happen. But again, if you were going to, we've been talking about this at work this week, if you were going to bet on a guy,
it's Ovi.
Of all the guys, and I thought early on in his career, remember when he was just like beyond reckless and he's just throwing his body at everything, and I kept thinking like, this guy is not going to last. Like as good as he is, like his body has to break down at some point. And it hasn't. And since then he's won a cup, and he's been like maybe not as good, but he's flirted with, I mean, he's still flirting with 50 to this day.
It's because his game it's like the Yager factor, right? It's because his game isn't predicated on speed and just annihilating you. It's I'm physically stronger than you. I know exactly where I'm supposed to be from a positioning standpoint, and I still got a rocket launcher shot that everybody in this league respects.
It's unreal.
So he is a wrecking ball. You look at old Yager. Old Yager was an absolute mountain. We're talking about a guy that was skating around at like 230 plus pounds and knew where he was supposed to be on the ice, right? Was old Yager the same as young Yager that was putting up 100 plus points every year? No, but you can bet your balls that you take a productive winger that's going to get you 60, 70, 80 points. 100%.
No, I just, at that age, it still boggles me that he can sign a deal like that. And it's not just name recognition. It's name recognition because of everything he's done. Like he's still getting an Ovechkin contract when he's pushing 40. Like it's,
I mean, he's going to be, I think he's going to be 36, maybe 37 in September. So, I mean, crazy to think this deal's going till he's 41 years old.
Yeah. And
I was a little surprised on the term. I mean, the money was fine, but the 5-year was a bit of a head scratcher for me.
It's almost like Solani, right? Like Solani, you didn't expect him to slow down.
No.
Even though he was older. I mean, where's your Horv on the chat here is making some great points, right? I mean, Ovi's also the type of the guy who's never Ovi first. It's always team first, right? That's 100% an Ovi thing.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be fine. I think they still circulate the power play on that lethal shot, and they can continue to get him help over his career. And Sid's the same way.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine. He's going to get his points.
I think that's actually the only player, the more I think about it, the only superstar I am comfortable giving a contract like that out to would be Crosby. Maybe throw Kane into the conversation, like really proven guys who've done everything for your franchise. But yeah,
even Kane's
that's probably about it.
Even Patrick.
But then again, you look at the Blackhawks, looks like they're kind of going all in for one more little run, eh?
Well, we'll see.
Depends if they have a goalie or not.
There's a lot going on. Yeah. Speaking of goaltending,
I can't see Fleury retiring. No, not a chance.
How does that?
He's got records to break still.
How does that happen though? First of all, dude wins the Vezina, right or wrong. People will debate that. Whatever, doesn't matter. Dude wins the Vezina. He gets traded. Didn't want to be traded. Wanted to finish his career in Vegas. Clearly is like a folk hero out there. The guy's been everything to that city, to that team, to his teammates, everything. Like he's reinvented himself out there. He's become, again, a legit number one goaltender. And then they trade him, and he finds out on Twitter. Like, on Twitter? Come on. You guys,
the world we live in.
But you can do better than that.
I mean, I tweeted this earlier, right? I mean, all this team has done is select him in the expansion draft, lean on him so hard in that first year.
Yeah.
Then decide the next year that he's actually not their guy, even though he's still playing so dope. And then they go and get Leonard. And then they create a bit of a goaltending controversy. Then they have Leonard take over. He runs through the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
The very next year, it's back to Fleury. Fleury is their guy all over again.
And his best season
in his best season after they tried to replace him. He continues to carry the meal, right? And I'm not saying that Fleury is the ultimate end answer for Las Vegas. I'm not. I'm just saying for a guy that you've asked to do everything for you in extenuating circumstances, who you put in shit spots, and then you go and do this to him at the end of the year, for everything that Fleury has done, all they've done to him during his time in Vegas, from my point of view and what it looks like, is treat him like a piece of shit.
And that sword, like that meme, it came back so strong, and it's so true. Because you're right, Ted. It's weird to think about it, but all they've done is crap on him. Really, they treated him like it's kind of like the backhanded compliments every time. Like, yeah, you're a guy, but there's no reason for a but. Like, all he's been has been awesome. All he's been has been a community supporter. Like, he's everything. He was probably the heart of that team. And now it's gone. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, like, he's in Chicago. Like, he didn't even want to go anywhere. So now he's in a place. Yeah. And again, where's your Horv? He's got a good point. He's probably going to play with a chip on his shoulder if he does, or maybe just doesn't want to go to Chicago and maybe just demands a trade.
At the end of the day,
would be unfortunate.
It would be. It would really be really unfortunate for Chicago. At the end of the day, I do believe that Vegas made the right call in deciding to go with not him versus him, because you got something in a high trade value at its highest point. But it seemed like a real dick way to do it.
Just tell him. Just like be a human being.
Yeah.
If honestly, you're gonna trade him, just tell the man. Don't let him find out on social media. Come on. We're better they're better than that.
How fast does that stuff get out? I mean, it's no excuse, but it must be like that, because we were hearing about all these signings, even though there's no tampering allowed.
Yeah, right.
We're hearing about all of these signings well before they even came out, right? So it's
I think there's a better way to do it, and I whatever, it is what it is, but it just sucks. It looks awful, and honestly, like, I think a lot of us are now reinvented Fleury supporters, because screw those guys. So
can we circle back to the Braden Point contract for a minute?
Know what?
I don't have a source. I can't recall the source, but I heard that Pettersson's camp is now looking at that contract as a comparable.
No,
I think's a bit too high.
That was a fake tweet, I think.
What was
it?
What was Point's contract at?
I think he got 8 times 9 or 9.5. Which is a lot of money.
They just saw McCarr get 9 for 7. Is it that unreasonable to think that might happen?
I think the McCarr deal is a steal. But that's kind of where I'm leading into is the fact, I never saw this coming. We have, if you include the Furland LTIR, who's actually just come out, he's also said that he's not going to play hockey physically ever again. Do you guys think that there's a chance that Benning can actually go mid-range to long-term with Pettersson, Hughes, potentially both? Or do you think we're still looking at some bridge deals?
I think one of them.
Yeah.
Probably.
Because I mean, you can literally, I was thinking it, and you could literally give them $8 million each, and you still have $3.5 million to sign Dickinson and Juolevi. I mean, then you're pushing right up to the cap, but I mean, that's the Canucks style.
They're going to be there. They're going to be there. And the thing is, they can't access that $3.5 million. Or is that what Furland was making? 3.5 or 4? Or is he making more than that?
3.5. Yeah.
They can't access that until he fails his physical.
Right.
So they have to go into the season.
Sucks.
Yeah, and so you can't access that money until after, which does really blow. But that's how it's set up, right? So you can't use the money, even though it's there. You can't access it.
Do you just hold one of those contracts until then?
You can't.
I mean,
no.
I think this is where my big annoyance with the Poolman thing comes in, and not even a huge annoyance on Hamonic, because I do like Hamonic's deal. I just don't think that we had the room to make that deal.
No,
I don't think that we had the room to make the Poolman deal because now we're looking at about, I think I did the math, and it's somewhere between 18 and 20 mil left over for 3 big players and 3 big players and 1 player who's an NHLer in Juolevi.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's not going to, I don't think, going to get league minimum. So, man, I think because Makar signed at $9 million, and that's a guy in his draft year, a comparable, competed for the Calder against him. Even though he's a defenseman, he has comparable value to his team. I think that's a guy that they're going to look at, probably along with Braden Point, for Pettersson. And I think Hughes is right in that conversation as well. And I don't know if they're going to re-sign both these guys. I still think somebody off this roster has to go. And this is where I go back to these poor signings again. And I don't like the Tanner Pearson signing. I think that's a player who you're paying $3.25 million to that could have gone towards players like PD and players like Hughes that we're going to have to re-sign. And I'm not sure how they're going to do with it. I'd be surprised if Dickinson only got 3.5.
Here's my quick hot take.
Only 3.5? I think he's going to come in around 2.5.
I that's where he should be.
Yeah.
So maybe I should rephrase that. I would be surprised if they get him where he should be. Is that a better explanation?
Right.
I think they're going to overpay for him.
It could go to arbitration. We'll see.
Traded Pearson to Montreal with Toffoli.
For Toffoli?
No, not for. Done. I'm in, man. End the night. No. Wouldn't that be something? Hey, like,
put it on the board.
What if we did this? I know it's crazy. No, what if they traded him to Montreal?
There might be a possibility there.
I mean,
theoretically, do you guys agree that they're going to have to free up cap space?
There may be a guy there.
If they want to go long term, yes.
If these 2 players are going to make what their peers are making,
I think you could go. I honestly think you might be able to get Pettersson for 8 on like a 6 to 8 year deal.
So I think you would have been able to get Pettersson for 8 at the beginning of last year. I think that the relationship is soured somewhat.
But he also got injured.
That too.
Exactly.
If you're going to play hardball, and I hope they don't play hardball because
he's with Newport Group. They're going to play hardball.
Yeah, well, I'm saying as the Canucks playing hardball, like that's going to be tough, right?
PD likes to spend.
Yeah, he does. Hey, listen, bro, I got my bespoke. Yeah. I have my bespoke lifestyle. I need to have this paid for. Yeah. I mean, Hughes, you can probably get away with, getting a little bit less. Which, again, the guy has a bit of an off season. I think everybody kind of did, except for Brock Besser, bless his heart. But I think if you have to throw money at one of them to start, it's definitely gonna be PD. I think, man, where's your Horv 1? He's that dude is all over the place tonight. He's bang on this one. Hughes gets bridge, EP gets long term. I think that's probably what I think happens.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, yeah, I think they may need to trade a guy like Tanner Pearson, which I mean, I do like him, but now that you've got a few shiny new toys, it's entirely possible. And maybe someone steps up from the farm team, right? Maybe it's a competitive training camp. Who knows?
I'll always hold out hope for Justin Bailey to step up and do something. I really like that player. Mm-hmm. He's a fun guy. He's got all the physical tools. He's got all those tools that Virtanen has.
And a motor.
Yeah, it was really bad he got hurt this year. That was a scary injury.
Yeah, very scary. So, hot take. and I don't like this hot take, but we're talking about freeing up roster space. I really do feel that by the end of this year or into next year, Brock Besser continues to be the odd man out on this roster in terms of somebody who can fetch big dollar value coming back in terms of a good contract or a good player.
Mm-hmm. You think we move him?
I do. I think we move him.
Wow, that is a hot take, and you're right. I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. Just so we're clear.
He's always been that guy. As far as what they've voiced to be the guy, the odd man out. I hope you're wrong too. I mean, the guy's
odd man out, not the odd man out by fit, not the odd man out
I get it.
by the person, not even the odd man
he's
out
the
by the dollar amount.
He's the biggest piece you can move and get away with moving.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, who knows though? Maybe Garland really hits, becomes that first line right wing. Podkolzin makes his way up to the second, and then maybe that isn't the end of the world. Maybe you can move him for something big and make this roster a little more complete.
I agree. I think the Garland signing to me was the writing on the walls for we're searching for a future replacement.
Interesting. I hope you're wrong, but
me too.
So yeah. we've got a few more things. See, like how crazy this is. We're almost like 51 minutes. Holy smokes! Look at us go. There's a couple things left. My first big question, because this is going to take a few minutes. After the week's events and everything that's happened, this is solely for the man to my screen right. Oh, by the way, our show is partnered with. Who is it partnered with, Brady?
Summer Skates.
Boy, see, we practiced. Brady, I told him, I said, you got to get this bang on. People want to know. People want to see this. Is Braden Ursel, Bob's son, is Braden Ursel once again a Benning bro?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Back on that train. I mean, he definitely had me kind of up and down this year for good reasons, but he's completely redeemed himself. I mean, like I said before, I'm going to repeat it. Never thought he would have been able to get rid of that Eriksson contract, let alone all three of those. A+, maybe not A+ off season, but definitely an A grade for me in terms of Jim Benning and what he's done.
He's a shit.
No, I mean, we're in this spot. Like I said, we're going to be aggressive and we're going to try to push and make this team, put them into their playoff window. They're not going to, trade and get picks and rebuild when you got all these players who've been waiting to win. So I think in the situation that we're in, he's been aggressive. He's been, he's taking a high risk, high reward with the Ekman Garland trade. But I mean, he's done a really good job at signing other supporting players for the right price and the right terms. So, I mean, I'm back on that. I'm a Benning bro all over again.
So Brady, that's great. I think it's neat. I know we're all going to have varying opinions on this, but I mean, Jim Benning has definitely surprised a few of us in the last week. And I mean, it's warranted that there's a renewed, I mean, hope is the wrong word, but he has definitely done some things we didn't think were possible. Ted, where are you at on the whole? I mean, you're definitely not a Benning bro, but
no.
Where? So we'll move on.
No,
I'm not a straight up Benning hater.
I know.
I'm not a bro either, right? My for this, I think I said it earlier. I think we should probably, Average Joe says he loves the summer skates. Thanks, Joe. Where's your horror?
I know your pictures, guys.
B for JB. For me, it's still incomplete. This offseason is incomplete. We can't know until we find out what the ramifications of the PD and Hughes signings are. Period. We can't know. Do I appreciate all of the things that he's done to move the shit off this roster and bring some valuable players in? Absolutely. We're on the right track. Got to finish the job though. Got to get it to the goal line, right? Because we just don't know at this point.
Sure.
But I can't give him a grade. But in terms of, hey, Jim made all these plays, I trust in all of them. It's not that way for me anymore. It's never going to be that way when he makes a trade that I just assume it's going to work out, because it hasn't more often than not. And so these moves that he makes, he's got to prove it to me.
So what about those contracts scares you, Ted? Like, I mean, I think we're in a situation where he's created cap space to sign those players. What about it has got you thinking that he hasn't done his job yet? Are you thinking he's going to overpay for them and that's going to hurt us, or he's going to put them on bridge deals that hurt us further down the road?
Those are all into factor, right? Like I can't assess until I see what they're making and what kind of deal they got. Did they bridge? Did they both bridge? Did they both sign long term? Did one sign long term? Did one bridge? Right? I'm gonna have to know all of those things before we can make the assumption on what the grade is. Now, the reason it's not complete is because the amount of money that's sitting on this roster right now, depending on the way that we go, isn't enough to re-sign these 4 players or these 3 players.
I disagree. I completely disagree.
Well, it's not depending on the way that we go, right? If we go, both of them get long-term deals, it might not be enough because I can't see these guys taking 7 or 8.
You really can't see them going for $8 million over at 6 years.
I can't, right? But
I don't think Hughes can get 9. Like if you compare the Hughes and the McCarr deal, right?
Yeah.
McCarr it's a superior defender. I would say he gets drafted first overall, actually over Pettersson in that. Wouldn't have said that a year ago. And he gets 9 by 6. I don't think Hughes gets that. I think a million, even maybe even 2 million less would be.
If they both get long term and say Hughes gets 7.5 and PD gets 9.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We still have to re-sign Dickinson. We still have to re-sign Ulevi.
You still have 3.5 mil.
So I'm thinking somebody still has to move off this roster. And that's why I say it's incomplete, because if they sign 1 long-term and 1 short-term, it'll work. If they sign 2 short-terms, it'll work. If they sign, I mean, it might work. If they both sign to long-term deals, there's a chance it could work, but I have to know what those deals are and what they clock in at, because market value is not always the same with Vancouver as it is with the rest of the league.
Clearly.
We all know that.
We could hit beyond. We could hit to the moon compared to market value.
If it's you and me negotiating contracts on this roster, I think we're gonna agree, right? I think we're gonna agree that $19 million is enough. But this team has proven in the past that they overpay, and I need to know where we're at.
I just think it's a win right now. Like we've got through the first day of free agency with no offer sheets. So I think that's a big win. That would have been the worst case scenario. I don't think it's going to happen now. So, I mean, time will tell, but they're both going to be back at camp when the season gets going. And I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah. I think in the past, early on, I think I would have agreed with you that we're going to be fine and we're going to find a way to get it done. Right now, based on recent history, I can't say that.
I'll put my 2 cents on this whole thing. He's done so much to absolutely burn every morsel of the fiber of this team with the massive contracts, the anchors that have not worked, the re-upping on the Gabransons, all these trades, the McCanns and the Virtanens and blah, blah, blah. We all know the history of the Vancouver Canucks in the last 7 years. And then overnight, in one pen stroke, almost all of that is not a race, but is evened out. He goes and gets guys that actually will be on this roster that will be able to provide hopeful value. He goes and gets depth pieces, which for the most part, again, please someone send me a really good clip of Tucker Pullman so at least I can say, hey, that was a great pass or something. I don't know. Just give me something to work with. But overall, I mean, definitely not a Benning bro. I'm not a supporter. But I look at it now and I think, okay, you've really, really shot yourself in the foot, but you figured out how to MacGyver yourself and tourniquet yourself back to being able to walk and eventually run. You do have the PD contract. You've got the Hughes contract. You've got Dickinson. There's Ulevi. There's some moves to be made. And yeah, Ted, I never really thought about, there probably is a trade that's going to be coming at some point because we need to make something happen. And obviously we can't access the LTIR until obviously day one. There's a lot of stuff.
Is that first day of the regular season?
First day of the season, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, it's not first.
You can't just be like, "Hey, we're going to hold out on your contract until game 1." Like,
I have a funny analogy, but you guys know me. You guys know that I like analogies because it's a good way that I can understand things, right? And when it comes to Benning and then these moves that have been made this season, because there's been clearly some very good ones, right, at arm's reach.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's like everybody has that friend that says they're going to quit smoking. And it's like, hey, man, I'm quitting smoking. Like, great. That's awesome. Like, dude, I'm at 3 weeks, stop smoking. Like, dude, that's so good. Right. And then after, 7 attempts of quitting smoking, after 7 different attempts of telling you that he's been 2 weeks without a smoke, it's like, dude, that's great that you quit smoking. I'm happy to see the progress, but I want to see it overall. Show me the long game. That's where I am with Benning right now. He's my quit smoking friend. I want him to prove it. Prove to me you
It's-
quit smoking.
Jet Black Jim and those cigars, man. He loves them. Loves them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. I'll give you that. And well played, Ted. Final thing that we'll talk about. It's definitely not. And I did kind of want to talk about it because I've been chatting about it.
I should give Brady some credit here, like real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but just before
You know what? Go for it. Hey,
Brady,
it's our
I guess
show.
you're here for me, Brady. You're a Benning bro, but the thing I like about you, Brady, is the fact that we can have a conversation and I can say not good things about Jim, and you don't try to attack me.
Yeah.
Usually, I get attacked by Benning bros if I say something negative towards old Jimbo.
This is a safe space. So before I get into my thing, did you guys see my little quick rant before the show about everybody complaining on social media about, oh, this guy took an L and blah blah blah, and I can't believe he said that. Who cares? Like, social media is great, but it also sucks. No one cares in real life if you said something that didn't pan out, or that you were wrong, or that there was a source that ended up being maybe wrong, or like all these guys in the media, they have a ton of sources, and sometimes the information is wrong, whether at the time they were told it is true or whatever. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. So guess what? Sometimes things happen and you're wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I own it. You know, we talk about it on here. You don't, like, who cares? In a year from now, if somebody's like, oh, you're wrong on this one thing, who cares? No one cares. I couldn't tell you if I was wrong or if you were wrong about something 5 years ago, because no one cares anymore, because real life happens. I have a job. I need other things to do. So get over it, Twitter. Yes, it's great that we get all of our information on there from Frank Saravalli 3 days before we're supposed to get it, or somewhere else. That's great. But at the same time, like, get over it, people. Get a life. Like,
Are you guys receipt checkers?
no.
You guys take receipts?
Like, I collect receipts at home, which
I'm not about that. Somebody got me on a receipt from, I don't know, like 4 years ago or something like that. I can't even remember what it was exactly. I got sent a receipt, and I'm like, I don't even remember tweeting that.
Yeah, like,
there you
who
go. It's a
cares?
receipt.
Like, it bugs me. Sorry, there's two things. Brady, you did
Imagine
remind
caring
me.
that much about anything.
So there's, like the Taj thing, and that's not just Taj, and I'm not calling him out. I'm calling out receipt checkers in general.
Is Taj a receipt checker?
I'm not. I don't even know. I see so much on there, and everybody's like, "Oh, this." Imagine if someone stuck with, like, guys, come on.
Oh, that's
Like,
not who I was referring to. I didn't even know.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I said that last night on a Taj post. Like, yes, there's a lot of receipt checking and this, that, and the other. Like, honestly, people, like, if you do not have anything better to do than to quote tweet somebody taking an L, if you will, like, come on. Like, we have better things to do. So two things. That's my little rant. Let's be better, people. Let's be a better society. How about that? Let's try that try on for size. Two things before we get into the ugly stuff. Alex Edler is an LA King for 1 year.
Yeah, what's up with that? I mean,
Really,
we're all thinking he's going to a contender, right? And then he leaves Vancouver for, sunny California. What's the story there?
Maybe it's not sunny California.
How old are his kids?
I'm not sure. I would think 10, 11.
I would say and again, here's just me thinking as a dad. His career is probably, it's getting close to being done. He can still contribute, but he's probably getting close to being done, right?
Those Swedes are always like that. They're thinking about home.
Yeah,
they're about 35, 36 when that starts to come around. They're not.
That's the thing.
So
I thought home for Edler was Vancouver.
Yeah. So here's my thing. He's on a 1 year deal, right? He's going to get one little bit of extra change. I saw somebody post on Carson Price that at the deadline the Canucks go for him, but which is entirely possible if they make a run. And how great would that be? That's not my point.
I feel like there would be a small parade and a huge amount of backlash all in one.
Oh, absolutely. So here's what I'm thinking. As a dad, you sign a 1 year deal in Los Angeles. I don't know if any of you have been to Los Angeles. Pretty nice place to be, and you can probably afford a nice little apartment for a year. Here's what I'm thinking. He pulls his kids out of normal school for a year, takes everybody on a 1 year vacation out to Los Angeles, gets to enjoy, and I'm sure his family's been there for road trips and stuff, like obviously Disneyland. He enjoys it for 1 year, does his thing out there, either signs another 1 year deal or something. Edler for a third.
Love it.
Yeah. But, like, really, in all honesty, like, Ted, as a dad, you've played a career, you've seen a lot of stuff. You've been on this team that's been to the Stanley Cup and lost heartbreaking fashion. and then you go out, you're clearly not going to be winning in LA, but maybe you get to help mentor a little bit. You get to be, a foundational piece for at least a year. And I mean, play with Drew Doughty. What's not to like?
Maybe he plays with Brant Clark too. I mean, who
yeah.
knows?
And you get one season, you get to kind of enjoy life as a bit of a vacation, and then you reset after that. I don't know. For 1 year, I've seen people do it all the time. You know what? What's the harm in that? So good on Edler.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's been a consummate pro. Good for him.
I just find it strange that it's like he clearly wanted out of Vancouver all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So to go to a team where he's not contending and he's just bringing in $3.5 million, it was a bit of a head scratcher.
Maybe he's hanging out with Cass and Bieksa.
I'd like to know kind of what happened there. If there's reason why he wanted out of Vancouver, if he just truly wanted to go live somewhere warmer. It doesn't add up in my mind just because of how strongly he's felt about Vancouver for so long. But I mean, all the best to him. He's one of the best defensemen of all time for the Vancouver Canucks, maybe even a potential, Ring of Honor candidate. So
he'll keep his house there. Like the guy's, he'll retire, like whatever that looks like when he's done hockey. Like Vancouver will be his home.
He's gonna walk back into Vancouver 10 years down the road, and he's gonna get a standing O.
Of course.
Oh,
that's just
100%.
the way it is. At this point, Eddie can still play.
Sure.
Eddie believes that he can still play. To answer your question, Ryan, yeah, like hell yeah, I'm in the twilight of my career. I think I can still ball a little bit. I'm gonna go to a place that has a ton of kids that all know what they're doing. And I know LA doesn't look like much right now, but don't sleep on LA. That team is loaded for bear in terms of prospects, and they can absolutely put up this year. Isn't
Byfield down there?
There's a ton of guys there. There's a ton of prospects there, not even including Clark, who they just drafted.
Yeah.
Like Clark was one of, I believe, 2 or 3 NHL ready players in that draft. So don't sleep on LA. Like that team is so stocked up right now on offensive prospects that there's a very good chance that they go ham this year.
Wouldn't that be something? Hey, pull an absolute like nobody.
And Eddie will look like a genius. I am pissed that he didn't go to Tampa Bay and follow Salo. And
that's what I thought too. I think you could have almost like bet a lottery ticket on that. Hey, like I'm gonna cash in. You talk about receipts. Like that's one of those ones I think everybody kind of wrote down as like obviously this is happening. And it didn't. We were all wrong. See, sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes. Did you guys want to get into the icky situation that kind of happened last week at the draft? And obviously, we can maybe pool. I don't know if we need to pool Chicago in there. I don't really want to talk about that. But how do the Montreal Canadiens continue? And if you guys saw Jeff Molson's little note today or his letter, how have they continued to double and triple down on this Logan Mailloux thing when he clearly said, "Hey, I screwed up. Don't draft me." And they still went ahead and gave this guy and they didn't just draft him. They drafted him in the first round. And there's something that goes with that. And what bugs me, I mean, yes, the guy absolutely screwed up and he's going to have to live with that. He's going to have to live with all the ramifications. And I mean, it was an awful thing that he did. Many people have done stupid things in their teens that are highly regrettable, whether it's something like that or other things. I mean, there's a lot of things that we all regret as kids. That was definitely something that was awful that happened. And yet Montreal goes and says, we're going to, like, they come out, they draft the guy. Everyone that knows anything about anything decides that, hey, you guys are idiots. Like, it was all over the place. It was such a bad move. But then they come out and say, we're going to reshape this guy. We're going to help to reform him. We're going to give him the proper support he needs. That's all great.
To say that.
You do. That's all great and everything, but you still don't draft him. You can't give this guy the opportunity at an amazing lifestyle right off the hop. You let him figure out how he's going to get there the long way. Like someone that you can't just give them that opportunity ahead of anyone else that hasn't screwed up, that hasn't done something like that. So you're going to say that now this guy is that much more deserving because you can reform him? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. And then you see Bergevin go out and say it. Then Jeff Molson comes out and goes, shame on me for doing this. Shame on me for doing this, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to reform him. It doesn't work that way. You can't give a kid like that a free pass. He said, don't draft me. That was the big sign. They could have left it alone. And maybe he does play hockey, and maybe it takes him 10 years or 6 or whatever to get to a point where there's a forgiveness of, if there is, and he gets back through hockey the long way through ECHL or whatever. If that eventually happens, that's a whole other story. But you're basically saying that we're going to fast track this guy, and we're going to make sure, because he's such a phenomenal hockey player, that we're going to bring him in. Like, it's disgusting. Just the way that, like, he owned it. And again, he's going to have to live with that. He owned that he did something terrible, and he's going to have to live with that. But come on, man, you can't go that route. You can't. As the Montreal Canadiens, a professional hockey club, an owner of a major brewery in not just Canada, like, they're one of the most recognized brands in the world, and you're saying, like, no, we're going to fix this. It doesn't work that way.
Unfortunately, Ryan, you're wrong.
Really?
It works that way all the time. Do I like it? Absolutely not. I think that's why not every team goes out and does stuff like this, right? I love the Cleveland Browns. Everybody knows that about me. I'm a huge Cleveland Browns fan.
Yeah.
They went and signed the very next year Kareem Hunt, who months earlier was seen on video kicking a woman in a hotel lobby, and getting into a huge fight with somebody. Like, suspended from the team. He was instantly dumped from Kansas City.
He was.
After being rookie of the, like, one of the rookie rushing leaders from the previous year.
He's
dumped. He's made a free agent. He's put on a 10-foot pole list by probably, I would say, 28 other teams around the NFL.
Yep.
Cleveland steps in. We're going to help reform him. We're going to make sure he's got the right head on his shoulders, blah, 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 whatever shit that you got to say to make yourself feel okay about doing it. Because that's what it is. It's
but like 2 days later, Ted, though, like, that's a no. Again,
I'm just saying we're going with this, right? So, but all that happens is Kareem Hunt balls out. Everybody who's pissed in Cleveland forgets about it. Everybody who's pissed in fantasy football forgets about it because their players balling out, and winning, unfortunately, just like everything else, solves everything. And so this is something that Montreal did, and Arizona did the same thing last year when they picked that kid. I can't remember what his name is. Like the racist kid in like the second round or whatever. They ended up getting him back in the draft because of all the pressure everybody put on him. But it's like some teams have a moral compass with that stuff. And some are willing to take the risk and the backlash and think that this is a player that's going to pan out from us in 2 years down the road when he's contributing to our team. People aren't going to be mad at that. They're going to say that he reformed.
And they'll think,
and they're going to say this was a good pick. Kobe Bryant went through it when he had like his rape charges and stuff. This happens. Unfortunately,
people forget about that. Like,
this happens all the time in sports. So, yeah, Ryan, you're wrong.
I get that I'm wrong.
I don't agree with it morally.
I get what you're saying. I think I'm wrong in that sense for sure. I get what you're saying for sure.
I think Ted, kind of nailed it on the head. I mean, sadly, the NHL, they say they're trying to make all these changes and equality and all this stuff, but sadly there's always going to be that GM out there, or a couple GMs out there, that look at that as an opportunity to take advantage. And I mean, I've heard that this guy was an earlier first round pick. I've heard through, I wouldn't say a reliable source, but a hockey player, that there were teams that were going to take this guy in the second round. Montreal just beat him to the punch. But I mean, I think this is kind of a big wake-up call for the NHL, where the NHL needs to realize, hey, we need to come up with some sort of system where if a player says, hey, don't draft me, then that player should not be able to be drafted. The NHL should step in and do something about that, and this is the perfect opportunity to go and do that.
Should he not have just declared himself ineligible? Like, that's a legit question. I don't know the answer. Maybe you guys can tell me on that one.
How does a 17-year-old have the moral compass to say not moral compass? I apologize. That's probably the wrong phrase. But how is the 17-year-old the smarter one in this case, where he says, "Hey, don't draft me. I screwed something up," and yet the guys with millions and millions of dollars are like, "Nah, we'll figure it out. It'll be okay."
Check writers, man. I think that a team, and I believe this about Vancouver, I think like a team like Vancouver had him on their no-fly list.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And some teams don't. And that's the way it goes.
Yeah. You're right, Ted. It happens in all of sports, and we're seeing it everywhere. You see it everywhere. Whether it's, and then you go over to Russia and they're like, well, we'll accept you over here.
To be clear, I don't agree with it.
No, I know you don't. Yeah. I think that's fairly evident, but it's awful. We had this chat the other day, my wife and I, and it's just there's so much wrong with it, and it's just I think the main thing is we always hope like someone is going to try to change this.
Well, think about all the women that watch hockey, right? What do they think when they see something like this?
Yeah. What about the Tony DeAngelo thing?
Yeah.
I mean, there's teams looking at Tony DeAngelo right now. You're right, Brady.
Didn't he sign with Carolina?
He did. Yep.
Yeah. You're right, Brady. Like and Where's Your Horse said this just a little bit. What kind of a role model is this guy going to be for people down the road? Now, I will say that some guys really do turn their lives around.
Yep.
And you have to be an advocate for change for something like that. And Kobe was one of those guys that was an advocate for change post what happened with his charges. And Ray Lewis, I think, was like up on murder charges or something. Was he not?
Yeah.
And now he's like a motivational speaker all around the world for change, for things like that, right? So some guys make change.
I think it was just so fresh.
Some guys don't.
It was just so fresh. Like, again, it's right at the beginning, and it was so fresh. It was like bang bang, and they both happened so quickly.
And they got to think that Canadians are like, oh, we just got 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah. It just anyway. So that's where we're at. It's obviously a way bigger subject, but I just need to blow off some steam, and I think everybody has been blowing off steam on this because it is an awful situation, and it's a shame that there hasn't been anybody that says we're finally going to take a stand on it. Because you're right, Ted, it's going to continue to happen. We've seen it a ton in the NFL. We've seen it in the NBA. Obviously, we've seen it in hockey, baseball. We're seeing it as well. It isn't going to fix. Oh, Brady dropped out accidentally, I think.
Well,
that's okay. He'll be back. I'll add him in as soon as we can. That's basically it. This has been an excellent episode. Lots of chatter on there. I do like this StreamYard thing. Tell everybody else, like, I really like the fact that we can have people on here and that we can, it's cool that you can, Edler for a third. You can post these kinds of things. I like all the toys on here. It's kind of cool. We hope that you guys continue to support the show. Check us out. Share, like, subscribe, all that. You guys all know the drill about, how it works for Apple podcasts and Spotify and all that. We want to be able to, we're known for giving stuff away, so we want to be able to do more of that. Make sure you check out our summer skates. We are going to be on the partner site soon. If you want to get in for a pair, I have the order in. I might be able to sneak in a pair. I just spoke with Summer Skates today. So if you guys want to buck up and buy a pair for $30, I might be able to slip in an extra pair in there. That'd be great. Hit me up in the DMs, or we have the official PP1 podcast at gmail.com. I don't even think we have an email yet, but we'd love to have an email. Even if it's just like, hi, love your show. That'd be great. Love your mustache. Great show. Other than that, I don't know if we're going to get Brady back here.
We're not. Yeah, Brady's done the whiffy crapped out.
Oh, crap. Okay. So anyway, this has been a lot of fun. I think because I'm going on holidays next week, I would like to be able to do a show realistically. I can't count on the Wi-Fi. Otherwise, I'll bring all my gear out there. So I think what we're going to do is we'll try to figure out a reason for you guys to stay in contact with us. But I think we're going to take a break next week. We will come back strong the following week. We've got, I don't know if I said, Donnie and Dolly are going to be joining us after all this blows over. So if I haven't said that, they are going to be joining us. We're just trying to make sure that it works. Obviously, they're very busy. We aren't as busy, but still busy. And then, we've got Dave Hackstall coming from the Seattle Kraken, the first ever coach. So we've got actually a busy August, and hopefully we can maybe land somebody else. Would be a lot of fun. But Dog Days of Summer, no more. This is actually a show that will keep going. And we're going to have a 1-week hiatus. So enjoy your long weekend, folks. I'm going up to see my kids for the first time in 3 weeks. They were a pain in the ass today on FaceTime. So
for anybody who doesn't know, Ryan is going on a vacation to sunny Prince
George, but it's on a lake. You're going to see a ton of pictures of me tweeting out there. So the sunsets are unreal. There's a boat, shotguns, shooting some clays, doing some fishing. It's going to be awesome.
I'll say it again, and I've said it before, but it really does. It's jarring every time that you say you're going on vacation and then you say the words Prince George.
Trust me. Come say hi. I'm in PG. There you go. Well, we're going to see. We're 40 minutes out of town. So when we go to town, it's usually a big deal.
Yeah, go hit up Where's Your Whore for a beer. He's going to know all the good spots.
There's 2 of them. So I always stop at College Heights and get my fancy beers. So before we head out to the lake. So out in Clucas. So it's a good time. Long weekend. I can't wait. It's been a long time coming. Get a full week out there. It's gonna be a blast. So other than that, Ted, any final words? This has been crazy, man.
Yeah, just nuts. I feel like there's more to come. They're gonna have to fill out that roster. So I said it a few times already this episode, but incomplete.
So next time we talk, hopefully we've got contracts to talk.
Yeah, I'd love to give a full answer on and grade this free agency.
Check out our Twitter account, the PP1 Podcast Twitter account. We're really trying to grow that. And other than that, yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute blast. I love doing this every week. It's cool to live stream. I think it makes it a lot more fun. Who knew people actually cared about what we had to say? It's very weird.
Ryan, solid game at ball yesterday. You pitched a 6-hitter.
I
a 6-run game. Nobody does that in slow pitch. Well done.
I mean,
well done.
all those runs came in one inning too. So thanks for your awful defense towards the end. Oh, Brady's here for the final hurrah. So guys, Brady, any final words? Were you joining us to go? Basically.
I don't know what's going on. I mean, last week, episode 100, we had the big blip there too. I know Faber thought it was really funny, but happened again. My Wi-Fi, you guys, freaking Shaw cable down here, it just sucks. So it's been going in and out like several times a day for about a week now. So I got to call my cable provider and ream them out because that just totally ruined my flow. But, what a great episode. It was good to be back. Is this officially episode 1 of season 3?
Oh shoot.
Are we in season 3 now?
Season 3.
Wow.
This is when all the explosions happen. Like
we'll probably get some like contract extensions, eh? Like we can probably demand like $10 an episode at this point or something, right?
Episode 1, season 3. I'm in episode 10. Season 4 and Breaking Bad right now.
So. I'm ahead of you. Yes. I'm on episode 2 of season 5. Suck it!
Season 10. What are you talking about?
I said season 5, dummy.
No, Ted said season 10.
Episode 10, season 4.
There we go.
Ooh, season 4.
Shit just going on now.
Almost there. Yeah.
We're gonna
wait till the finale of that season.
Hey. Keep it quiet. Don't ruin it. I'm actually ahead of him now, so keep it quiet.
Man,
I got
to take out an entire Mexican mafia with bad tequila.
Yeah, that was.
Can I have a little insider for you? That's pretty cool about that show because you finished. You finished season 3, right? Yeah. Which was, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the season with the pink teddy bear, right?
Yeah.
So you know how there's 4 different episodes where they show that
pink teddy bear in the pool.
Yeah, there's 4 different episodes where they kind of show the foreshadow what's going on there. If you look at the episodes where that pink bear appears, the names of the episodes spells out 737 down over ABQ.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Isn't that crazy? That's pretty cool.
Wait, that's way too much thinking.
747 down over Albuquerque.
Yeah.
I love it. On that note.
Cool.
Yeah, because in the one episode, he thought he needed $737,000 for his family to be good, and then all the other ones kind of add up, and it's all foreshadow.
What was the number? 747 though.
737, like a 737 plane, right?
I was gonna say because it was the 737 that went down.
It was 737, not 47.
We've lost all of our viewers and listeners. This has died very quickly. I'm just kidding. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Episode 101, season 3, episode 1. Wow, this is gonna be tough to catalog. Of the PP1 podcast, Shotgun Jim.
Did we let him know what's going on next week?
Yeah, we
okay,
did.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Missed that. Sorry, boys.
Okay. Hey, you know what? It wasn't as important. On behalf of Brady out in the dungeon, Ted at his office, Ryan, I'm in my man cave. This is PP1 podcast. Peace out.
Peace.
Much love.
Nice.